Hello everyone. In this session, recording, recording. Yeah, hello everyone. In this session, we will cover peering. What we're gonna do? We're gonna create two virtual network VNets, and they're gonna be in a different region. And then we will try to ping each other and see if we can able to create the pairing successfully. Okay, let's start by creating two resource group first. So let's do our resource group. So first resource group we're gonna create in East US. So I'm gonna call it East US. And let's wait for it to validate. And let's create a second resource group and we're gonna call it West US. And make sure you select the right region. Yep, here we got West US here. Okay, we got our two resources. Now, second thing we're gonna do is to create our virtual network in respective resource which we created. So let's go with ECUS first. And this virtual network, we're gonna call it East hyphen US hyphen, I think it doesn't take hyphens. So East US virtual group, sorry, virtual network. Virtual network and it's in East US. And the IP address range we're gonna use is gonna be same, the one which is by default. And then the subnet, we need to create two subnet. We will create two subnet. One is we're gonna keep it private, and one we're gonna keep it public. So let's create the public subnet first. Dot 1.0 hyphen 24. Sorry, we need to mention the name here. Let's copy this one and paste it here. And this one we're gonna call it East US subnet. East US subnet. And subnet address is 10.0.1.0.24. And also one thing we need to do, as I said, it should be a public. So public is US subnet. So we're using a long name just to make sure that it's not confusing. Okay, that's done. And then let's add private one as well. Private East US subnet. And then let's do 10.0. Okay, private ECU at subnet. So we are doing the second one. I'm gonna call it 2.0/24. And we don't need this default one, so let's add this one and then we're gonna get rid of the default one. And if you click here, there's the option to remove it. And let's remove it. So you can see we got two subnet under our virtual network. And these is one is public and other is private. And let's hit create. And let's create them. You'll wait for it to finish. Okay, so our deployment is finished now. Let's wait for these ones. It should appear in a minute here. Okay, now let's go to our network security group and let's create a network security groups there. Network security group, you can search it here as well. But since I used it previously, so that's why it's showing up on my list. So let's create in ECUS and we're gonna call it and network security group. We're gonna call with the region name first, East US Network Security Group, and then further, yeah, it doesn't take number as you can see. So the best way, let's keep it this way, East US NSG, and then we're gonna call it public. Let's do public first, and then let's create. Let's create. Was validating it first. Okay, perfect. So our public network security group is created. Let's go in there. Okay, the reason we created this one, we just want to allow everything just in case we don't want to block anything. So if we click inbound, add, I'm gonna say any, any, and destination any as well. We'll keep this custom and ports, we're gonna keep it all. Any allow, and priority, we're gonna say this rule as allow all. And click OK. So we have the inbound rule for public where but everything is allowed. Okay, now okay, let's create it successfully. And then let's go to our security groups and create one for private as well. And in the East US, we're gonna call it same like East US NSG private and ECUS, and let's create. And we're just gonna wait for it to finish. Okay, perfect. So that's created. Now we're gonna do the same inbound rule for private as well. We will not assign it a public IP address, but just for the port connections, we're just gonna give this uh, uh, allow all, and but we're gonna keep it same and allow all, and let's verify that's all good and add. Yep, rule is created. Now we're gonna associate these rules with the subnet which we have created. So we are in private, and our virtual network was East US virtual network, and the subnet which we're gonna choose for this is private. So we're gonna use private here and click OK. Okay, that's done. Now let's go back to our private is done public one, and we're gonna do the same for public. Go to subnet and then associate with the virtual network. In this case, it's public. And let's click OK. Okay, so we done our virtual net, we done our subnet, we done our network security groups. Now, next step, we need to launch our machine and associate these virtual networks with it. So we're going to start with the Windows machine first. Okay, resource group gonna be East US, and I'm gonna call it Windows VM in East US. And see, we don't need this one. We select and Windows Server 2019 we will select. Let's wait for this to come down. Okay, since we will be launching quite a few machines, so what I will do, I will use the minimum because we are on a free tier, so I think there's a limit you can use, so don't want to exceed from the limit. Else you will get a warning message and we can't able to launch more machines. Okay, so that's done. We will not allow anything here because we already created our own network security group. Okay, these are all done. And let's go to next. We will keep the setting as it is. In networking, we're gonna select is showing private here. We want to put the Windows on public subnet, so virtual network. So we're gonna use public subnet for this, and IP address I'm gonna leave it by default. It will pick up. You can create our own IP and then name it something and assign it as well, but we will keep it like this and click next. And disable this feature. Next. Next. It's just a monitoring feature, but we just keep it disabled for now. Okay, so our VM is getting prepared now with the sub virtual network as public, which we mentioned. Gonna wait for it to finish. This can take some time. Okay, So our first VM has been created. Let's try to RDP into it. So you can see we copy our machine's public IP address. Okay, let's connect. Try to enter into it. That's the generic password we use. Okay, so we are getting connected in this machine. I'm gonna leave this machine running in the background. Let's prepare our second machine, which will be Linux one. So the same is US and virtual machine name Linux or Linux, whichever you want to call it. Linux VM, and I will go with Ubuntu. We're gonna keep the minimum. We'll use password to log in, and then I'm gonna say none here. Next. Gonna use the same setting. Next. In here, yep, we're gonna keep this one in private, so we're gonna choose private subnet. Okay, with the IP address, we will say none. We don't want to assign any public IP address to this one. And let's click management. Let's disable this monitoring feature and let's wait for it to create. Okay, here we go. While that's coming up, so we will go back to our machine which we logged in earlier. I'm just gonna say hide this one. Okay, we're gonna need putty to remote into our machine Linux. So let's disable this one. Let's quickly download the putty for this. Okay, let me go to Google first. It's a bit slow. Just gonna wait for it to load. Our VM is ready as well, 2.4. Okay, download. Okay, so our Linux machine is ready as well. So what we will do, we will connect into that machine using uh, our Windows machine. Since those machines are in same network, so we can able to go in and then if we accept desktop and password. Okay, perfect. So we are in our machine. Okay, since we will be playing around with tools regions, so what I will do here, just gonna make a note here and just need a blank. And I'm gonna call this one East US. Okay, I will show you for the in few minutes why we have created this a notepad because it's easy for us to determine which machine is it because of this recording session. I can't able to see the IP addresses on the top. Okay, now our first part is done. Now let's do the same for our West US. So we had the resource group created. Now let's create a virtual network first. In West US, make sure you choose West US in this West US or whichever region you are trying to create. Try to follow the same naming convention just as a consistency. West US virtual network and hit create. Okay, you should have it up and running now. Okay, our resource is created. Perfect. Now the next step we need to do is to create subnet. You can create the subnet while you are creating the virtual network, but this is a different way. Just want to show you guys. So we also need to change. You can go under the properties it was where we can change the IP address as well. Okay, address space, yes. Okay, so we don't want to use this address space. So what I will do, I will change it. So if you don't change it or if you don't use it or forget to do it while you're creating the virtual network, you can do it from here as well. So dot, sorry, it need to be 0 and then should be 16. Okay, it's throwing some error. So let's see update. Okay, what we need to do. So let's go to subnet. Okay, let's delete this subnet first because it's in a different region. So we don't have any subnet. Okay, now let's go back to our address space and let's change this one. The reason why it's throwing an error because there's already a subnet available which is in a different network. Okay, now let's add our subnets. We're gonna add two subnets here. We're gonna call first West US subnet, and we're gonna call this one public. And the public one we're gonna keep in 16.1. We're gonna create second one private. And we're gonna keep it in 2. And let's save. So our subnets are created. So our virtual group is created first, then we got subnet created. You have seen we have created in a different way. Like we first created a subnet, a virtual network, then we change the IP addresses as well. So you can do it either way. And then next step we need to do is to create network security groups. This is for East US. Now we're gonna create for West US. So in West US OU, and we're gonna call it West US and Network Security Group, and we're gonna call it public first. It's always good if you follow the same naming convention because it's easy to figure it out. Okay, let's add the rule as well. You're gonna allow all the traffic. So stick any, and we're gonna call allow underscore all. Just make sure everything is status. That's done. Okay, now let's create the private one as well. West US, and we're gonna call it West US and Network Security Group and private. Perfect, that's done. Let's create. Okay, that's created. Now let's add the rule. Okay, we forget to associate the rule for public, but let's do this private and then we will associate one as well. And this is private network and private head. That's done. Now if I go back to the rule security groups and where's public, and you can see it's missing here, so let's associate network and subnet is public, public, yep, and then click OK. Okay, perfect. So once it's created, we have done our West US virtual network. We have done our West US subnets, public and private, and network security groups. Now let's launch those machines in there. We should have labeled these ones as East, but that's fine. The West one, we're gonna label them, so it's easy for us to figure it out. So let's go to our West US. We're gonna call it West US Windows VM. Okay, selected West US automatically. You're gonna create Windows first. Yep, one CPU and this much memory should be more than enough. So, okay, that's done. And we're gonna say none since we created it already. I'm gonna say next, next. In here, this is Windows, so we're gonna use public. Make sure it picks up this public IP address, and then rest settings we can leave it as it is apart from this which will disable. Let's to create and create. These machines can take few minutes, so just gonna wait. Okay, as you can see, we are in West US now. So our putty is there. And if I want to ping my same virtual network machine to Windows, which is 0.0.1 dot should be 4. Yep, I'm getting a successful ping. And if I ping, just gonna wait for command prompt to come up. And if I ping my Linux machine, we are getting successful ping. So machine within within the same network, we can able to ping. Okay, so our Windows machine is ready. Let's do RDP into it. Okay, it came to my other screen. Okay, we're gonna wait for this one to fire up, and let's create the other machine, Linux in our West US. So West US Linux VM. Desktop. Gonna say none here. Next. Networking, we're gonna do same private for this as we done it for East, and public don't gonna give any access. And then let's go to management, disable, let's hit and create. Okay, while it's getting created, just gonna give it another minute. Okay, it's getting created now. Now if we go to my other screen, so this is our, let me maximize this. So this is our West US machine, and to keep it easy, West US, I'm just gonna call West US because when we're gonna come to this machine, we can able to see from the top of the screen. And let's install putty here as well. Off. And we don't need this for now. Let's go to Google. Oops. Okay, let's launch Putty now. I'm pretty sure the IP address for that VM should be 16.2.4. Okay, seems like it's working. Let's log in and perfect. So we are in our West US Linux, you can see there. Okay, so our setup is there now. And the thing which we need to do, let me quickly go through it again. So we got 4 machines, Windows VM and Linux VM. As you can see, these 2 machines, they are in East US and they are in same subnet. We got Windows, Linux West US, Windows West US VM, they are in same subnet in West US. Now what we are trying to do, we want to ping from this machine to this machine. Okay, to do that, we have to create peers. So peers we can create by going into our virtual network. You can select any of these ones, and then under here you can see option called peering, and we will add peer to each other. So what we're gonna call here, so since we are in East, so I'm gonna call it East US to West US. We're gonna allow all the traffic, link name, peer, and it's asking for remote virtual link. Okay, yeah, it's a remote. So if it's remote, what we need to do is easy. If you do like this, so since we created east to west, in here we're gonna say west to east. East US, and virtual network we're gonna say west because we are in east, and that's pretty much it. And let's add it now. You can see it's trying to add in both. There's a two deployment process kicked off. Okay, they are done. Now, if we go back to our West US machine and let's do command prompt here, we will ping on the private network first. So West US, our network was 17.16 and East was 10.0.0. So let's ping our, we are in West US, that's why I created this one, and we will ping the East US IP address, which is 10.0.1.4. Perfect. So we are getting ping from our East US machine. This is the private address. Let's try to ping our, this is our virtual machine, Linux virtual machine IP address. So we can manage to ping on both machines on the subnets, virtual networks subnets. So now if we go back to our, there's another test we can do. If you remember, we had the private public address for our East US machine as well. Let's see if that window machine we can able to ping. Yeah, this is the IP address. Yeah, see, this is the private IP address which we tried to ping and we managed to get it done. So we are in West US, and if we do ping, perfect. Nothing better than this because we can able to ping everything. Okay, let's try to do it from our Linux machine as well. So first let's ping 10.0.2.4, which is the Linux machine on the other side. We are getting the successful ping. I'm gonna to control that, else it will be keep going. This is our window machine on the other end. Perfect, that's going as well. And now let's try to ping the public address. It's just got stuck. Okay, while it's doing it, let's go back to our East US machine. This is our East US machine, and let's ping on the other side. So other addresses are 172.16.2.4. This is our Linux private machine. Perfect. We are getting the ping back. Now we will ping on. Let me bring this one on top. Let me ping the 172.16.1.4. This is our Windows machine in West US. So we are getting ping. And now let's try to grab the IP address, public IP address, and try to ping West US. Perfect. Ping. Okay, that was successful. Let's do the same thing for our from our Linux machine in East US to ping to West US. .16.2.4. Perfect, that's getting pinged. 1.4. Perfect, that's getting pinged. Let's try to ping. I think we didn't able to ping the public address. Oh, yeah, for some reason the public address we can't able to ping, but at least we have proven that the private networks has been created and they're up and running. Okay, I think we pretty much covered everything. Was a long session. Okay, I'm gonna say thanks for watching, and I will see you in another video. Let me try to stop this video.